Hello everybody, 'tis I, the Rumpled One. The Big Short by Michael Lewis. I read his book Liar's Poker, I don't know, probably 5 or so years ago. Really good book. This book I couldn't put down. Read it in a day, less than a day actually. Just couldn't put it down. It's basically telling about how all the big institutional banks collapsed right around 2007, 2008. They just all came tumbling down because of their CDOs and CDSs, subprime mortgage collapse. And basically, the message of this book is that the people running the show at these big institutions are either liars and crooks or they're idiots. And that also goes along with the people running the SEC and the Treasury and the Fed. Oh, windy today. See, I remember this because I remember back in about 1997, 98 is when I was doing a second round of buying rental properties. And I remember the hard time that I was having getting some of those loans. I mean, I could show on paper it was better for me to own the property than not own it because of the income that it would produce. But at the same time, there's people out there didn't even have any credit. They were giving these guys loans on top of loans, these subprime loans. And it just all came to a head, like I said, around 2007, 2008. And the thing is, he goes into details. There's about maybe 4 or 5 people in the country who knew what was going on. And these guys all shorted the market. Now, for those of you who don't know what shorting is, I'll give you a quick example. Let's say you wake up one day and you pick up the paper and you see milk is on sale for $1.99 a gallon, but normally it costs $2.99. So you go in the house to have your morning coffee and you get a phone call from one of your neighbors down the street. They say, "Hey, can I borrow a gallon of milk?" But you don't have a gallon of milk. But you remembered as you were getting your morning paper, you saw your neighbor next door was unloading their station wagon or their minivan or their SUV, and they had about 3 or 4 gallons of milk that they had bought. And you're thinking, So you go over, you knock on the door, you go, "Hey neighbor, can I borrow a gallon of milk? I'm going to be going to the store, but I need some milk for my coffee." And the neighbor says, "Sure, no problem." So you've got this gallon of milk. Now you owe that neighbor a gallon of milk because you borrowed it. Now your buddy comes over and says, "Hey man, here's $3 or here's $2.99 because that's what milk usually costs." He wasn't aware of what milk costs right at the moment. So you take and give that gallon of milk to your buddy and he gives you $2.99. You go down to the store and you buy a gallon of milk for $1.99 and repay your neighbor. See, that's what happens when you short. You think the price is going to go down, and it means sometime in the future you're going to borrow it when the price is high, and then you're going to repay it when the price is low, because you're going to borrow it, sell it to somebody else, and then repay it. So hopefully for those of you who don't understand shorting, that's how it works. So these 4 or 5 individuals that figured out that these CDSs and CDOs and all this other stuff was just garbage, and there was no way that it would sustain. It was basically a huge Ponzi scheme that come crashing down. They figured out a way how to short this market, and they made millions, tens of millions, $100 of million shorting. But they're not the evil ones. It's the guys that set it up. But after reading this book yesterday, I woke up this morning and I figured out how we can make sure this mess doesn't happen again. See, if the SEC treated new financial instruments the same way the FDA treats new drugs, we might not have this problem. That's not saying the FDA does a good job. It's just that it's such a slow, long process to bring things to bear. They got to basically prove that it's not going to do any harm to somebody's physical or mental health, or emotional health for that matter. But you see, the SEC doesn't have that same criteria for bringing new financial products to market. It doesn't say that. We got to make sure it's not going to do any harm to the citizens' financial health. No, it's that caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. But you see, the thing is, even these guys in big companies like Merrill Lynch, they took it on the chin for, something like 10 billion or more. These companies, they came down all because of this mess. All because they didn't even know what they were selling. They didn't know what they just put this stuff together, and like I said, about 5 people in the country figured it out. That this was garbage. It was toxic. But I mean, these people from all over the world, there's really only 5 people who knew what was going on. I mean, not Bernanke, not Greenspan, not Geithner, not any of those guys. And the CEOs at these financial institutions, they didn't have a clue either. And the thing is, they pick on Bernie Madoff, who was, definitely a criminal doing a Ponzi scheme, but these other guys selling crap, they did it. Not only did they not go to jail, most of them wound up with $1 million bonuses. All that TARP money. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So, viewers who are traders, you might want to read this book, The Big Short, by Michael Lewis.